Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking an absolutely profound framework from Mel Robbins about, well, mastering the ordinary. So often we fall into this mental trap of believing that to genuinely feel better, we need some massive life overhaul. We think we've got to quit our jobs, move across the country, or somehow magically transform into a flawless version of ourselves overnight. But what we're looking at today completely flips that entire narrative on its head. The core thesis here is that you don't actually need to tear your life down to the studs. Instead, you can transform that daily fog of stress and exhaustion through really small, consistent mental shifts. We're going to break down exactly how these tiny, deceptively simple adjustments, practiced on a totally random, unremarkable Tuesday, actually compound into a fundamentally more fulfilling life.
Okay, let's dive into this with a question that honestly just stops you dead in your tracks. What if the life you are so stressed out about right now is actually the life your future self will look back on with deep fondness? Now, this isn't just some toxic positivity trick, I promise. It's a genuine cognitive reframe based on how human memory and nostalgia actually work. We are notoriously terrible at predicting what we'll value in hindsight. Just think about it. The exhausting years of raising toddlers, or living in a scrappy apartment with 3 roommates while you're trying to build a career, those seasons of immense stress, they're also seasons of incredible aliveness. This simple question forces us to just stop, look around, and genuinely appreciate the present reality we're standing in right now.
But you might be wondering, why is it so incredibly hard to just appreciate the present? Well, the answer actually lies in our biology. We are constantly fighting against our own hardwiring, specifically the negativity bias. Evolutionarily speaking, this was a fantastic trait. Paying way more attention to threats kept our ancestors from, getting eaten by predators. But today, it is deeply unhelpful. This biological glitch basically causes us to catastrophize a slightly blunt email from our boss or treat a standard traffic jam like a life-or-death crisis. It keeps our brains locked in this low-grade state of emergency. We end up spending our days constantly fighting firing and bracing for the next disaster, which literally robs us of the ability to be truly present in the season we're currently in. To combat this, we have to consciously anchor ourselves in the now.
Which brings us to part 1 of our explainer, grounding in the present.
One of the absolute most powerful ways to ground yourself in the present is to master what's called a narrative pivot. Look, you cannot change what has already happened. The mistake, the missed opportunity, the argument, it's done. Replaying it on a loop in your head doesn't undo it. It literally just ruins your present moment. A narrative pivot is that exact moment in a story where the focus shifts from what went wrong to what the character is going to do in response. By redirecting your attention from past failures to your very next move, you instantly reclaim your power. You shift the whole internal question from a backward-facing, "Why did this happen to me?" to a forward-facing, highly actionable, "Okay, what do I do right now?" That is exactly how you anchor yourself in the present, and once you're grounded, the next critical step is defending that mental space.
So, let's move right along to part 2, protecting your emotional energy.
We live in a highly reactive modern world. Between social media, family drama, the 24-hour news cycle, everything is actively competing for your attention. To survive this without totally burning out, you have to develop the skill of pausing before you react. And here is the essential filter question to help you do just that. Is this worth my energy? Remember, your emotional energy is finite. It is not an endless well. Every single time you spiral into anxiety, replay a dumb argument, or fire off an angry text, it costs you focus and peace. When you feel that urge to react, just creating a pause, even for literally a few seconds, allows your rational prefrontal cortex to come online before your emotional amygdala completely takes over. You don't have to respond to every single provocation. Choosing not to react isn't weakness, guys. It is a highly sophisticated exercise of personal power.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the biggest strains on our emotional energy: taking things personally. We have this terrible habit of making ourselves the main character of other people's stories. If a coworker is short with us, we instantly assume they hate our work. If a friend takes hours to text back, we're up wondering what we did wrong. But the truth is, other people's moods, opinions, and behaviors are almost always rooted in their own inner world. That coworker is probably just overwhelmed. The friend is probably stressed out. When you truly internalize that their behavior is a window into their state and not a verdict on your worth, you completely stop absorbing their chaos. You can actually have compassion for them without catching their stress.
Which brings us to an incredibly liberating 2-word boundary-setting framework from Mel. Let them. I know, it sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But believe me, these 2 words are profoundly powerful when you actually put them into practice in your real life.
Let's break down exactly how this theory works as a concrete procedure. Step 1 is let them. So much of our daily exhaustion comes from trying to control things we fundamentally cannot control, namely other people. We try to manage their opinions, prevent them from making bad choices, or just force them to understand us. It is a massive drain. So instead, you just say, let them. Let them misunderstand you. Let them make that choice. By doing this, you consciously release your grip on something you never actually had control over in the first place. Then you immediately move to step 2, let me. Once you've dropped the rope with them, you turn all that attention right back to yourself. Let me focus on my values. Let me choose how I respond. This brilliant 2-step framework draws a hard, clear line between what belongs to others and what belongs to you, keeping your energy exactly where it belongs. Now that we've protected our energy from external forces, we really need to look inward.
Let's dive into part 3. Stop waiting, start living.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it perfectly deconstructs the when-then trap we all fall into. You know the one. We tell ourselves, when things finally calm down, then I'll enjoy life. Or, when I feel confident enough, then I'll ask for the promotion. We essentially treat our emotions like gatekeepers, waiting around for the perfect feeling of readiness before we start actually living. But behavioral science proves this is a complete myth. The reality is that action creates emotion. It's a bidirectional relationship. You do not wait until you feel confident to do the brave thing. You do the brave thing, and the literal act of doing it is what builds the confidence in your brain. You have to take action while you are sad, engage while you are anxious, and move forward while you are uncertain. The act of living is what facilitates the growth.
And this requires us to confront a slightly uncomfortable but entirely necessary truth. Taking responsibility means giving up the role of the victim and fully acknowledging that no one is coming to rescue you. Now listen, this isn't dismissive of real hardship. Circumstances are absolutely real and often very tough. But no matter what has happened to you, waiting for someone else to give you permission or hand you an opportunity is a strategy that guarantees you will stay stuck forever. Taking responsibility means owning your choices and your responses. And here is exactly why this matters. The moment you realize no one is coming to save you is the exact same moment you realize you don't have to wait for anyone's permission to start moving. It isn't a burden. It is the ultimate source of genuine personal power. So how do we take all of these internal mindset shifts and make them real on a daily basis?
That brings us to our final section, Part 4, Architecting a Better Day.
So the crucial point is understanding the psychology behind creating a good day. Most of us operate under this weird delusion that a good day is just something that happens to us, like the weather is nice, traffic is light, people are polite. But this passive mindset puts your entire well-being at the mercy of completely unpredictable external conditions. Instead, we want to build what psychologists call self-efficacy. That's the deep-seated belief that your behavior actually makes a real difference. You don't just wait around for a good day, you create one by making intentional choices. When you actively introduce positivity or purpose into your routine, you immediately shift from being a passive observer to an active architect of your own life.
Let's look at how this builds into practice, because these choices absolutely do not have to be massive life overhauls. We're talking about taking just 5 minutes of quiet with your coffee before checking your phone, texting a friend just to say hi, taking a quick 10-minute walk outside, doing literally one kind thing for a stranger, or just putting your phone away and being fully, entirely present for just one single conversation. I'm rattling these off rapidly because I really want you to see how highly accessible they are. The barrier to entry here is practically zero. You can do any of these on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. Every single time you execute one of these micro-actions, you are actively signaling to your brain, I am an active participant in my own life. Over time, these tiny seeds compound into a fundamentally different relationship with your day-to-day existence.
Well, we have covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, moving all the way from the evolutionary traps of our own brains to the profound power of simply letting things go and taking action way before we feel ready. The real beauty of this entire framework is that it doesn't demand perfection, and it certainly doesn't require you to be entirely problem-free. It simply asks for your attention and a willingness to